if we decide to wander down the yellow brick road, leave God or the church, there are no guarantees that we will end up in the land of happily ever after. You all know the land of happily ever after. It's where the three pigs went after they escaped from the first little pig house to the second little pig house to the third little pig house that the wolf could not blow down. It was where Rapunzel let down her head and the prince climbed up and rescued her, and they got married and lived happily ever after. But the reality is, in the real world, the first little pig didn't live in the second little pig house. He got eaten by the wolf. In real life, Rapunzel didn't have long hair. She had a weave. And the weave fell off, and so the prince could climb up and rescue her. So she ended up waiting for Mr. Right, and probably ended up an old maid, but I'm not going to bother with that. The point that I'm making is that in the fairy tale, everybody ends up in the land of happily ever after. But in real life, when you take the wrong road, when you go the wrong way, when you make the wrong choice, there are no guarantees that you will end up in the land of happily ever after. The young man in our text, affectionately known as Exhibit A, you know him, we call him the prodigal son. He learned some valuable lessons that I believe are beneficial for you and I, so I'm going to share them with you because they just might help us to stay on straight street and to walk down that narrow path and would keep us off the yellow brick road or Broadway. So what did he learn? He learned several things. First, he learned that leaving home is not always the best choice. Sure, he may have had some fun, had some laughs, but the worldly fun will not last always. For the world will take you too far, will keep you too long, and abandon you when you need help the most. If you don't believe me, ask the prodigal son. Ask your mommy or your daddy. Ask Deacon White. Ask Elder Townsend. Ask Mother Bristol. Ask First Lady. Ask Evangelist Townsend. Ask me. I'm not ashamed. I'll tell you the world took me too far. Kept me too long. Messed me up. Left me busted and disgusted. And when I needed help, the world turned her back on me. And I'm so glad that I know a man from Galilee that I've never seen. He set me free, picked me up, turned me around, placed my feet on solid ground, took me off of Broadway, y'all sit on it, and put me on straight street. Do I have any witnesses in the house? I was telling my granddaughter the other day, I said, baby, I said, Corey, I have 2 birthdays, and you have to get me 2 gifts. She said, Grandpa, you don't have 2 birthdays. I have 2 birthdays. I said, no, I got 2 birthdays. She said, well, what 2 birthdays do you have? I said, in February 14, 1962, I was born in sin. Wow. But in July 1982, I was born again. I got 2 birthdays.
All right, sir.
Yes, sir.
Listen, this boy, somebody say this boy. This young African American, took money that wasn't rightly his, broke his daddy's heart, spent it like there was no tomorrow, and went contrary to his father's teaching, living a sinful and rebellious lifestyle. Do you know when he said, Father, give me the portion that was before me or that was coming to me. He was saying in essence, Daddy, I know the law says that when you die, this 1/3 belongs to me. So in essence, he was saying, I can't wait. I wish you were dead. Give me what's coming to me. I want it yesterday. I want it right now. As I said in the previous message, if my son had done that to me, by the time I pulled my foot out there behind, but with this father, somebody said this father, in our text, had more wisdom than I did. Because he understood it wasn't about the money. And by the way, my issue is not the money. My issue is the disrespect. He could have the money. Because if the money would allow you to go, experience life, and run into hell, so you could come to yourself and come back home. If I had $1 million, I would give it to my children. Because at the end of the day, as a father, my main concern is not the money. It's not your education. It's not your accomplishment in life, but it's where your soul going to spend eternity. Secondly, somebody said secondly, he learned that you can run, but you can't hide. He went into a far country as a distance to separate him from God. When you leave, it might separate you from the church. It might separate you from your family, from your friends, from those that love you or want to keep you on the straight and narrow, but you can't run from God. Tell your neighbor, say, you can't run from God. There is nowhere you can go that God is not there. The psalmist declared in Psalm 139, where can I go from his presence? If I make my bed in hell, thou art there. If I take with the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy right hand hold. Tell your neighbor, say, God is everywhere. God is everywhere. God is omniscient. He's all knowing. Omnipotent. He's all powerful. God is just all that and big bags of shit. You can't run from God. You can't hide from God. If you go to the left, he's there. If you go to the right, he's there. If you go up, he's there. If you go down, he's there. Everywhere you go, you're going to run into God. You don't believe me? I went in the military, caught myself running away from the church. Caught myself doing everything I was big and bad enough to do. And everywhere I turn around, there's a sin. They sing a song in Michigan, everywhere I go, there's a drill sign there. Y'all remember that? And everywhere I went, there was a saint there. Everywhere I went, there was a reminder, something that reminded me that I shouldn't be doing what I was doing. Now, I'm truthful with y'all. I can tell y'all a story, and then all will stop me. Because my mind was bent on having things my way. So I thought. And that's where this little boy was. You have to understand something. The Bible says that the eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. You might hide from me. You might hide from your brother, your sister. You might fool some folks some of the time. Some folks are so dumb you might fool them all the time. But you can't fool God none. Y'all don't say nothing. It's okay. I told you earlier, you can't say amen and say out. I said, Lord, have the preacher and say something. But I'm trying to close. So just like curiosity got the best of us, curiosity got the best of this young man. He heard the stories told in school about the great fun that they had out there in the nightclubs. He heard how they had the barbecues and they had the alcohol and they had the reefer and they had the crack cocaine and they had the stuff that they're snorting now out of aerosol cans and all the other new type drugs that the kids are using today that we don't have a clue what they are doing. And he heard about all of that stuff. And he thought the grass was greener on the other side. And I stopped by to let you know that the grass is not greener than the other side. Don't be like that bull who was sitting in this fenced-in area, in this pasture with all of those cows. Had every cow he wanted. But all he could think about was when he looked across in the other pasture. He saw a bunch of cows over there. And he couldn't wait to get to the other side. Finally, he had enough courage and jumped the fence. And he tore or scarred his stomach. But Elder Townsend, he was so glad to be over in the other pasture because he thought the grass was greener on the other side. But when he got on the other pasture, he discovered that what he thought were a bunch of cows ended up being a bunch of bulls. Sometimes, somebody said sometimes. You might think it may be cows, but at the end of the day, it's simply a bunch of bulls. That's going to sink in a minute. I'm coming down your street, and I ain't scared. This joker requested that his father give him his inheritance before he was ready, left home before he was right, and went into a far country that he wasn't prepared for and wasted his father's money. By the way, that's why they called him the prodigal son. In the Greek, the word prodigal means wasteful. It means you just blow things. You have more regard for the value or the earning, the hardship it took to get what a person has. You just squander it because it doesn't mean anything to you. And I'm just wondering on today, are any of us here prodigal? Have we wasted our talents? Have we wasted our time? Have we wasted our resources on things that do not glorify God? We shack up with sin, hook up with the devil, and then we wonder why our lives are sometimes messed up. You want to go out there and belong to God Monday to Friday, or belong to God Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, and the devil Monday to Friday, and no matter why there's all this H-E-L-L in your life. But God told me to tell you, if you lay down with dogs, don't be surprised if you find yourself pleased. Y'all ain't gonna help me, but it's all right. Hallelujah. Lastly, the road back home is not the same road that you took when you left. Because once you leave home, you have now been exposed to some things in the world that will affect you for the rest of your life. For example, I wish I never touched a marijuana joint, or smoked a Marlboro cigarette, or drank vodka and orange juice, Boone's Farm wine, tequila and all the other stuff we drank in the world, or engaged in premarital sex. Because once you're contaminated with the things of the world, you're never the same again.